Good afternoon. My name is Grozdana Maric. I'm leading fraud and security intelligence team in CEMEA region at SAS. Today I am going to talk about key challenges that a company facing today in fraud detection and investigation area and how technology can help with that. Fraud is widespread and continues to grow. Criminals get more organized, technologically sophisticated, and operate at bigger scale. As they innovate and scale up, fraud prevention and investigation become more and more difficult. On this slide is a summary of the key challenges that our organization facing today. First challenge is connected to rule-based systems, which result with too many false alerts and in general high alert volumes that leads to operational inefficiency sometimes. Rule-based systems are limited to simple if-then statements without any advanced analytics in use. Once alert is created, you don't have choice. You have to review it and you have to decide on that. So companies have more and more costs around people that are needed to handle all these alerts. And the next challenge is connected to that, high operational cost. The human costs become more and more higher and not technology. And also the companies are lack of tools to do some complex risk analysis, lack of tools to monitor, to tune, to optimize all these rules and so on. And also what we see as one challenge is inadequate governance in place. Data quality, for example, is also a big issue. No 360-degree view on customers. For one customer, many companies have alerts in different systems. The bigger the company, we have situation, there are more silos, more systems. And for the same customer, we can review IML alert in one system, cards fraud alert in another system, application fraud into a system, and so on. Having a single view of customer across all line of business is something that many companies doesn't have today, and this is really crucial in order to improve detection process. And also data and decision silos create opportunities for fraudster as well. Regulators around the world are aware about all these inefficiencies, and there is really pressure on companies to innovate, to use machine learning, advanced analytics, and to complement current capabilities and enhance their fraud and financial crimes controls. Those challenges are also accelerated with epidemic. Let me explain in a bank example, what you can see in this slide. And one of the key things that we noticed when lockdown started last year is that bank at one moment moved to work remotely, work from home. Approximately at 70% of their staff move in that setup. And such quickly deployed remote access created significant security vulnerabilities. Also, we saw the explosion of digital transactions, and banks globally in average told that 50% growth in digital transactions that they had last year, which means much more risk. Very interesting that many banks were quite prepared for that increase in terms of product offerings, but not in such peak. And also some processes and products were deployed in hurry and not tested appropriate operational risk assessment in terms of all these new products were not appropriately done and so on, which again makes some new gaps that fraudsters can use. Work from home, of course, increase also internal fraud and so on. So all these that we can see open new doors for criminals, and the challenge for institutions actually has never been the bigger. So how we can fight the fraud in the best way, how technology can help with all of this. To be able to prevent fraud, you need more just than detection engine. You need at least all those pillars. First component is data integration component. So you need to ingest data from different silos, both internal and external data, on one system in order to have 360-degree view. With this centralized ingest, you also do many data quality analysis. You eliminate redundancy and all this stuff. It actually are not good, because no matter how good you have rules, fraud rules and fraud statistical models and other techniques, if you apply them on wrong data, you will have garbage in, garbage out effect. Next pillar is detection. So you need not just rules, but all advanced techniques like artificial intelligence models, profiling, text mining, computer vision, and so on. And then you need, of course, a great investigation interface. I will speak later a few words about that. What does it mean? And reporting. So these two components are actually what business users see, what fraud analysts or internal auditors see, and how can review alerts and cases. And of course, discovery. So you need to constantly see what is going on, to improve the rules, to improve the models, to have some self-learning capabilities with the system, and so on. When we speak how to detect fraud in the best way, this is what we call hybrid approach. So on the left side, you can see three levels of detection. First level is event. It is typically transaction, but both monetary and non-monetary transaction is something that you should review when you identify fraud. Monetary is typically payments, and non-monetary is like PIN change, balance inquiry, limit change, because in many cases these non-monetary transactions come before some fraudulent transactions. Then you should look all of this from entity level, meaning not only transaction, but on account level, on customer level, on device level. You should also look from which device the transaction has been initiated. Is that the person who is telling you that is he, or even it is maybe not person in some cases. We have some types of attacks where even person is not behind. So you should look entity and networks. So you should look connections between all of those. On the right side, you can see different detection methods that you can apply. So usually companies start with business rules, which is good because fraudsters still are doing the things that they were doing 20 years ago, but in more sophisticated way. But on top of these rules, you need to apply anomaly detection, profiling, to reduce false positives, because only rules really generate a lot of false positives. Then you can apply machine learning, you can apply text mining, so looking some text from non-structured data like call center notes, like Swift messages, and so on. And of course, watch list. More than you have, actually, you can detect more fraud with less operational cost, meaning you need less people to review false alert, and with better customer convenience, because you don't review 3 alerts in 3 different systems and then call the customer 3 times and decline genuine transaction, and so on. So this is really what is needed. A few words about network analytics, because it is really very powerful in fraud detection process. And it is something that many organizations already perform, but try to manually create this type of network. So how they usually do? They ask IT to extract some data, then they try to create network for some serious investigations and big cases that they have. And it is very time consuming. The companies told us that it lasts weeks, even months in some cases, and so on. The powerful solution can do it automatically, because when data are in the system already, when they are indexed, networks can be generated within alert generation process, so very quickly. And this is very, very powerful technique. Here on the left-hand side, you can see example of static data association. So those people are linked together with similar pieces of info, like same address, bank account, phone number, and so on. And on the right-hand side is another level of association. You see blue line with arrows, and those lines indicate behavioral association, like sending money between two linked persons in this case. So very, very powerful technique. When we speak about effective investigation, so this is what business end user will see on the screen. We can say today is there is a push to improve both speed and accuracy. So in the speed, we see a big need to move everything towards real-time monitoring and detection. And also investigation should be done very quickly. Instead of taking days to investigate some suspicious case, we see that there is a need to review these alerts in real time, to do quick investigation, and so on. And also to do fast and accurate decision as much as possible. So this is what we see, there is the big pressure. When we speak about end user interface also, it is important to have all relevant information available for full investigation, to speed up alert triage and to perform needed analysis and actions in one screen, in one interface. So ideally, data from different silos should be in one system, and also alerts from different silos should be in one system. In order, we have customer score, we have risk assessment based on different types of fraud, based on anti-money laundering monitoring, security monitoring, fraud monitoring, and so on. So there is really need to have such powerful solution. And also when we have all of these there, we can do a lot of additional automatic activities to further accelerate this investigation process. For example, we can do alert hibernation. We can put low score on hibernation. Opposite is alert escalation. So not all things have the same level of urgency, let's say. Here you can see different benefits that we can achieve by this customer-centric alert and management investigation. I will now read all of them, but it's a summary of something that I just tried to explain. So having 360-degree view of customer, really improve all these processes around, really make your compliance at the company level at much better position, and so on. There is a really lot of synergy in terms of operational efficiency, and also in terms of how the company at all compliance level now can decrease such types of risks. Here you can see one example and summary between, let's say, old way, so old way of school, how we can do the things, and new way, across alert management and investigation management processes. So in alerting, for example, in new way, you just log on in the morning when you come to the work and see all alerts that are automatically generated by artificial intelligence, machine learning, network analytics, and so on. So you can then really focus on the most suspicious activities. In data gathering step, all relevant data related to specific case and alert are again available in the system. You can review that alert. You can understand is that false alert or there is really some fraud behind, and so on. Networks are generated alerts. All of these, from alerts to networks, have some score from low risk score to high risk. So you can set up your internal process, different workflows, who is in charge to review what, and so on. When you build a case, so when you understand that some alert is really some fraud, then you would like to build a case. Then you again have some extended data. You can enrich it. You can attach some additional details, comments. You can further involve other people to review this case, and so on. So really powerful workflow to handle all of this is available in such a new way. And in each of these steps, there is significant enhancement of operational efficiency. And when we speak with our clients, they tell us about that. I will now just share with you example of two of our clients that use this 360-degree view. First example is PKO Bank. It is the biggest bank in Poland. PKO has 20 million customers, and they have retail products across all different channels. And they start to use SaaS solution for online payments fraud because they have the biggest issues there. And then they expand the using of solution, as you can see, to loan application. So to assess application fraud when the customer asks loan. Then looking mule accounts schemes, cards fraud. Then they look also branch transaction fraud. In this area is internal fraud activities are monitored well. And when we applied solution or all these channels, they get this 360-degree view on all customers' transactions, and they told they are really have a great benefits connected to that. They are able to have reduce fraud losses. They reduce also in false positive alerts, so they don't need so many more and more people as it was the case before. But also they told us they have ability to quickly react to changing fraud trends because our solution has a business user rule management interface where business user without IT help can create the new rule, test it on testing environment, do estimation on history data, and deploy everything within the minutes, which is really important now. In this fraud ecosystem. And this is another customer also who is a big bank, Bank Muscat, and they are monitoring again different types of transactions across different channels, and what actually the challenges they have before using our solution is lack of this 360-degree view across all these channels. And they understand that they really need a single platform to monitor fraud on enterprise level, and they achieve that by our solution. And here I also put the link to the article where they in details write what they implemented, what are the specific areas that they address, and so on. So thank you very much. I now will introduce my colleague Onur, who will continue.
Thank you very much, Grozdana. Hi everyone, my name is Onur Dinç and I am Senior Customer Advisor responsible for EMEA region, and I'm based in UK for the last 3 years, and before that I was working at SAS Turkey as analytical consultant. And during the next 20 minutes I prepared this agenda, and I will start with market trends, a short introduction, common challenges of anti-money laundering systems, and the main topic of today's session is Modernizing AML program. And let me start with the some market trends. Sorry, here it is. So my first example is from Netherlands. This is centralized transaction monitoring, and 5 different Dutch banks joined and share their whole data between each other, and they publish a centralized transaction monitoring system. So what I mean is they are not just sharing currency transaction reports or suspicious activity reports. They share all account, branch, and customer information, and also transaction information, as you see at the below image, and they built a centralized database. So in that case, they can monitor all of the customers in terms of analytics, network analysis, or statistical basis. Of course, there are many advantages of this because we know that money launderers may have more than one account from many financial institutions. So in that case, you can reveal hidden relationship between entities, customers, or external parties, and you can detect and increase your productivity system. But of course, there are some disadvantages of this system, just sharing the data and some data privacy issues. And it's a big issue, but in this case, they solved this one by masking and making anonymous of the customer information. And they produce and they increase their transaction monitoring system productivity. Second topic that I want to talk under market trends is cryptocurrency, anti-money laundering, and virtual assets. This is the topic that we are facing very high, and it's very hot topic nowadays. We face many customers are coming to us and just want to hear our solution. And this is not from classical financial institutions. Of course, many cryptocurrency exchange companies wants to use and detect risk activity in terms of transaction monitoring. And I want to give some examples, like there are many data provider companies that take the publicly available data from the many resources and create sensible formats and sell this data, or run some rules and some statistics and sell this data to financial institutions or other cryptocurrency exchange companies. And as you see at the left side, this is Financial Conduct Authority from United Kingdom, and they gone to a tender for a third-party blockchain data analytics provider, and this is the news from last month. So it means that this is going to be a hot topic for the next years also, to use analytics and data providers to detect risky activity in cryptocurrency transactions. At the right part, I just include these screenshots because in cryptocurrency AML, it's similar to normal transaction monitoring and money laundering stages, like we have placement, layering, and integration. And this is a real life use cases, like money launderers or hackers send some virus to business or corporate systems, and they hacked them, and they require ransom payments from these victims as blockchain payments. And these victims pay this ransom as, for example, Bitcoin. So it is going to be a first stage like placement. And these hackers use mixers or do some complex transactions to delete the footprint of these transactions. So we call it layering here. And when they convert this dirty money to legal ones, and then they can integrate to the classical system by buying high luxury cars or houses. So this is the stage in the cryptocurrency AML. So this is a very hot topic nowadays. And last topic for my presentation is common challenge that financial institutions are facing from AML point of view. And it starts with customer onboarding. It's a step-by-step process, and I'm very quickly explain all of them. And the process starts with customer onboarding when a person comes to your branch or your online channels and wants to become a customer or of your financial institutions. And banks are doing real-time or near real-time customer screening in terms of blacklist watch lists or politically exposed person watch list, or even they can run customer risk scoring in real time or near real time to decide on board the customer or not. But the challenge is having a real-time solution is very important at that point, because you cannot wait customers 4 days or 4 hours to decide to onboard the customer. And after onboarding the customer, second step is doing an ongoing sanctions and PEP screening, because all the watch list or blacklist data may change, or even customers' data may change. And you need to do not only new onboarded customers. In that case, you need to do this sanction screening for your entire customer database. Third step is ongoing due diligence, and we call it customer risk ranking in that part. And we use entity, product, and country-specific rules to score all the entire database, and it's commonly in monthly batches. And if customer score is above a specific threshold, then we generate alerts in monthly basis, and investigators investigate these high-risk customers. Next one, and the most classical one, is transaction monitoring. Again, it's a batch process. In that case, banks do again a batch transaction monitoring system using some classical rules or some basic analytics. In that case, we have anomaly detection type of use cases or outlier detection if they have if they implemented a proper segmentation and peer groups. And next one is alert and case management. As Grozdana mentioned, we have 360 holistic customer review also in anti-money laundering, not only in fraud one, because as you see, we have sanction screening, customer risk ranking, and transaction monitoring. And investigators should see all these outputs in one screen instead of opening different banks applications or whatever it is. Because the customer may not be risky in terms of transaction monitoring, but from sanctions point of view, the customer may be risky. And the last one is regulatory reporting and managerial reporting. And I want to continue with my presentation about top reasons to modernize. The first reason is increasing false positives. In a classical transaction monitoring system, we see that more than 95% of the alerts are false positive alerts. And secondly, evolving threats are going to be complex. So instead of using very basic or classical if-then-else transaction monitoring rules may result in high positive rate. And then third topic is regulators are demanding using the artificial intelligence and analytics in terms of anti-money laundering. And of course, we should have a single view of the customer, or we should have a 360 view of customer to investigate this customer from all parts. And next one is again related to the first one, the productivity level of the customer, because if you produce too many false positive alerts, then you need to hire new compliance people in your compliance team. And lastly, all of the things that you do, whether it's an analytics or just a classical business, you have to document it, and it has to be explainable to local regulator and internal audit teams. So these are the top reasons to modernize the existing classical AML system. And now I'm going to talk about how to modernize it. And during the webinar last year that we were talking with KPMG colleagues, that we asked a question to understand why has artificial intelligence or machine learning adoption been slow to the existing anti-money laundering programs. So as you see, the first question was, what is the level of AI machine learning application into your AML operations? And the participants' answers didn't surprise us because 40% say that they don't use analytics, and some percent say that proof of concept or pilot phases, and only 11% says that they use analytics in production phase. And as you see, it's a very low percentage. And our second question was, what is the biggest hurdle to use machine learning? And the answer is model explainability, interpretability of the challenges, and the next common answer is data, technical, and resource challenges, as you see, and because that's why they cannot implement analytics in their normal transaction monitoring system. So how can we modernize the existing ML program? It's an, again, step-by-step program, and it starts with a classical way of anti-money laundering. At the left part, the first column says the classical business rules, and financial institutions have many transaction monitoring rules, and we call it heuristic rules, and they can do tuning of the thresholds by just changing to increase the productivity level of the system. And they do sanctions and PEP screening in a classical way. Next step is analytics. And of course, we should talk about segmentation in that case for transaction monitoring to create anomaly and to detect outlier detection. And again, as Grozdana mentioned, we have network analysis cases, which is becoming popular not only in fraud area, but also in the anti-money laundering space to reveal hidden relationship between entities. Maybe there may be some organized crime between people or any kind of household or accounts. And we can track the flow of money or a kind of transaction flow to see that if money is going to high-risk countries or high-risk jurisdictions. And third one is robotics, which I'm going to give some use case from our implementations in global. And the most popular one is robotic process automation, as you know. And we have some examples to auto-hibernate the low-scored alerts and then auto-suppress them, and then after some period of time, bulk closing of them. So in that case, we are now automating this process, and I'm going to give an example with some metric outputs in our implementations. The next one is text analytics, which means using unstructured data to become meaningful. And we may use transaction descriptions here or Swift messages, and we can reveal some risky activity by using the unstructured data. Or as some of the data providers use this text analytics for negative media search to see that if entity exists in a kind of negative media in the internet or in the classical media. And the last step, again, I'm going to give an example in the next section, is artificial intelligence. And as you see, the system has to be mature, and all of the previous steps have to be implemented to talk about artificial intelligence or at the anti-money laundering implementation, because it is the latest step. And we have machine learning, smart process automation, and again, automated decision making. And we can implement predictive model type of scenarios and or any kind of post-alert scoring in that case. But the financial institutions' previous data has to be clean, and they need to provide a proper data, because I can say that from my previous experience, more than 80% of the work depends on the data preparing, data cleaning, and the remaining 20% is not so difficult job, because solutions is just drag and drop and gives you the output and makes the, for example, a very basic decision tree model. So these are the 10 keys to success with next generation AML. So first step is innovate, but with caution, and everything has to be documented. Like if you are trying to implement a segmentation model by using k-means clustering, for example, it has to be explainable, because we need to explain it to internal audit or the local regulator. It shouldn't be a black box system. And second one is related to model governance. And the third one is sharing data across border. We should again be cautious in terms of GDPR, and we should consider hybrid approach. We should combine the business expertise and statistics. And in AML, where we use statistics in many areas, and data foundation, it's very classical, but garbage in, garbage out. We should have the quality of data, and take a granular approach to thresholding, which I should refer to segmentation again. In that case, to change the threshold to do the above the line and below the line testing, we should have a proper segmentation. And again, focus on what matters, defer what might matter to later, which means that risk assessments of the bank, or they should be aware of the existing high-risk products, high-risk channel, or high-risk customers. And then machine learning best practices, and lastly integrating all their internal systems, or even sometimes we see use cases like that integration of fraud and anti-money laundering system in one use cases. It has some advantage, for example, in terms of costs of the software, or in terms of cost of the people perspective. So lastly, I want to give you and explain you two different use cases from our two different implementations in the global, from anti-money laundering perspective. First use case is from Asia Pacific region. In this project, we do a post-alert scoring of transaction monitoring system, which means alert generation process generates alerts. And then we use predictive modeling. And by looking the historical data and using the target flag of suspicious transaction report flag, we score all the generated alerts in the system. And for low quality alerts, the purpose is, of course, increasing the productivity level and making investigators' life easier. And for low quality alerts, we can auto hibernate them, because most probably they are false positive alerts. Then these are the options. We can do some random sampling for investigation, or we can push them to junior investigations for triage purposes. And as you see, these are the outputs. And in this scoring algorithm in predictive modeling, we use these attributes to prepare analytical base table, and these input variables are transaction risk, entity network, and scenario risk attributes. And we implement both gradient boosting and deep neural networks as a combination, so that's why we call it ensemble methods. And the output is, at the end of the project, false positives are reduced by 33%, which is a very nice number in terms of productivity level. And of course, it's significant. There are some significant savings in cost and investigations time, which is again an important one. My last slide, and again, my last use case is from United States. In this project, similar to the previous one, but in that case, we replaced some of the existing transaction monitoring scenarios by one predictive model. And in this implementation, rather than using rule-based scenarios, we use, again, have a look at the historical data, and we have a target variable and implement this predictive modeling. And we replaced 10 different cache activity related scenarios by one predictive model, which will decrease the number of the existing scenarios. And again, you see the outputs that, because normally in our existing transaction monitoring system, they use between 5 or 10 variables. But if you implement a predictive modeling, you can maybe reveal some hidden relationship or unknown parameters by using more than maybe 80 variables. And again, let me talk about the outputs by giving some numbers. After replacing 10 cache activity scenarios by one predictive model, suspicious activity report conversion rates are tripled, and monthly work items cut by 50%. Again, these are so important numbers. This is the end of my presentation, and thank you for listening.